Hello and welcome to Daily News Simplified, an answer to what, why and how of newspaper analysis from the UPSC perspective. Today we have taken up important articles from the Hindu newspaper. Topics which we are going to discuss are displayed on your screen. Let's begin the discussion.
Now let's start our discussion with our first article which appeared on page number 14 in the Hindu newspaper. And context of this article is that recently Union government has decided to reduce stock limits of wheat for traders, wholesalers and retailers in all states and union territories. This is mainly because of an upward movement in the wheat prices due to the artificial scarcity and fearing hoarding ahead of the festival season. Now here, what does this term wheat stock limit means? Typically, it refers to the government imposed limitations or regulations on the amount of wheat that can be held in reserve or traded within a specific time frame. Now these limits are often put in place to stabilize wheat price, prevent hoarding and ensure an adequate supply of wheat for consumers. For this we have wheat stock limit. So currently the revised stock limit is 2000 metric ton, which had been 3000 metric ton so far. Also, here you should know that union government can take action for any violation of the stock limit, and that is under section 6 and 7 of Essential Commodities Act 1955. Now, having understood what is wheat stock limit, let's understand more on wheat crop. As you know, wheat is the second most important staple food after rice, and it is consumed by 65% of the population in India. Second, it is the significant source of carbohydrates and is the primary source of vegetable protein in human food worldwide. It is predominantly grown in central and peninsular part of India. Now let us see the suitable conditions which favors the crop growth. First, it requires optimum temperature for growth, and that is 15.5 degrees centigrade. It requires warm and moist during early stage and dry and sunny during late stage and harvest. The amount of moisture is required varies between 45 to 65 centimeter. So these are the important facts with respect to wheat. Now the question is that why we have taken this topic in our DNS discussion. Now as this topic revolves around wheat stock limit, and as you know, issues of buffer stocks and food security is one of the prominent themes under GS paper 3. Also, theme of agriculture is important from the perspective of both preliminary and mains examination. As in year 2019, UPSC has asked the question based on advantage of fertigation in agriculture. Now try to attempt this question and let us know your answer in the comment box given below. Also, theme of agriculture is equally important from perspective of mains examination. As in year 2021, it has asked question based on challenges pertaining to crop diversification. So in this discussion, we'll cover a broader theme, that is challenges pertaining to Indian agriculture sector and way forward for the same. But before that, let me tell you about the recent Millets Conclave in Hyderabad to debate on nutritional aspects and financial security. So here everyone must understand the growing importance of millets because it gained the paramount importance during the recently concluded G20 summit cuisines in Delhi. So we must expect one question on this topic due to the high promotion of millets by the government. So let's have a discussion on millets first, followed by the agriculture sector. So let's begin our discussion. So let's start with what are millets. The term millet is used to describe small grain cereals like sorghum, that is jawar, pearl millet, that is bajra, then this one is foxtail millet, then this one is little millet, and this one is kodo millet. Other are finger millet, proso millet, barnyard millet, and brown top millet. Now in India, millets are mainly a kharif crop. Now during 2018 and 19, three millet crops, that is bajra, jawar, and ragi, accounted for about 7% of the gross cropped area in the country. Now let's discuss important benefits of millets. Now as you know that millets have been identified as a climate resilient crop. Why? Because they can adapt to extreme weather conditions such as heat, droughts, floods, etc. Also, they require less water, less fertilizers and pesticides than other crops and can be grown on marginal lands. So, as a result, it helps in reducing carbon footprint. That means millet is useful in mitigating climate change. And because of this, they are also known as miracle grains or crops of the future. Now, next benefit is health benefit. How? As millets are highly nutritious and can help in managing and preventing various health conditions like obesity, diabetes, etc. Why? Because they are rich in fiber, which is known to improve gut microbiota. Also, they are rich in protein, vitamin, minerals. They are good source of complex carbohydrates. Also, they have low glycemic index. How it is helpful? Glycemic index is a measure of how much blood sugar levels spike after consuming a food item. Then processed rice or wheat. A low glycemic diet can help in controlling weight and blood sugar levels, and consequently, it will reduce the risk of heart diseases and even cancers. Also, millets are gluten free and that suit people with gluten allergy. Next benefit is that it will improve food security. Now you know that millets have been cultivated in India for thousands of years and have been an important food source for millions of people, especially in rural areas. They are affordable and accessible source of nutrition and can be grown in diverse agroclimatic conditions. Now as you have seen that they are highly nutritious plus they can be stored for a long time. So millets are an important food security crop that can help in reducing malnutrition and hunger. Next benefit is that it will help to increase income generation. How? Now millets have a high demand in the market, both in India and globally. Why? Due to their nutritional value and climate resilience. So by cultivating millets, farmers can generate additional income and diversify their cropping system. So rather focusing only on wheat and rice. Also, it can create employment opportunities in processing, packaging, and marketing, which can benefit rural communities. Next benefit is biodiversity conservation. Now you have already seen that millets are a diverse group of grains that include several varieties and species. So by cultivating millets, farmers can conserve biodiversity and preserve their traditional knowledge and practices. Another benefit is that it will enhance soil health and improve fertility. How? Now, millets have a deep root system that helps in improving soil structure and fertility. Also, they have a low requirement for fertilizers and pesticides, which automatically reduce the cost of cultivation and prevent soil degradation. So, by rotating millets with other crops, farmer can improve soil health and reduce the risk of soil-borne diseases. And the next benefit is versatility. Now, how it is a benefit? Because it can be used as a feed and a fodder for animals and food for human beings. It can be used in a variety of dishes, from breakfast to dinner and even snacks and desserts. Now, another important benefit of millet is political significance. How? As millet is grown mainly in low income and developing countries like Asia and Africa, and they are part of food basket of about 60 crore people across the globe. So by proposing the resolution to celebrate 2023 as the International Year of Millets, India pitched itself as a leader of this group. This is similar to the Indian initiative on the 121 nation, that is International Solar Alliance. Now we have seen that millets are highly nutritious and can withstand adverse climatic conditions. Also in India, millets have been traditional staple crop for centuries, but their production and consumption have decreased significantly. So let's discuss some reasons behind their low production and consumption. The first reason behind their low production and consumption is change in dietary habits. Now, with the rise of urbanization, a shift towards a more westernized diet, so there has been a decline in the consumption of traditional foods such as millets. Also, there has been a shift in consumption pattern towards more protein based foods such as pulses, milk, egg, fish, and etc. Next challenge is lack of awareness. Now, millets are often seen as a poor man's food or food for livestock. Why? Because there's a lack of awareness among urban population about the nutritional value and health benefits of millets, which has led to a decline in their consumption. Next challenge is more focus on rice and wheat. How? As owing to Green Revolution and National Food Security Act 2013, now in this, two-thirds of India's population receive up to 5 kg of wheat or rice per person per month at rupees 2 and rupees 3 per kg respectively. So tilting the scales against millets. Next challenge is inconvenience in food preparation. Now if we see in comparison with wheat dough, because the gluten protein makes the wheat dough more cohesive and elastic. So the resultant breads come out light and fluffy, which is not the case with bajra or jawar. Next challenge is low productivity. Now for farmers, low per hectare yields, that is the national average is roughly 1 ton for jawar, 1.5 ton for bajra, 1.7 ton for ragi, as against 3.5 tons for wheat and 4 tons for paddy. Now you can see the difference between the per hectare yield. Next challenge is low procurement. Now the quantity of coarse grain procured for the central pool and distributed under National Food Security Act has been negligible. Last is lack of umbrella coverage under minimum support price. Now government declares MSP for sorghum, pearl millet, barley and ragi, only thus making farmers hesitant to grow for other crops. Now, having discussed the benefits of millets and the reason behind their low production and consumption, let's discuss few strategies to promote nutri-cereals. The first one is special agribusiness zone for millets. In this, focus should be on development of particular millets which is popularly cultivated in local areas. For example, sorghum in Telangana, finger millet in Karnataka, pearl millet in Gujarat, and small millets in Madhya Pradesh. So these special agribusiness zones can develop around farmer producer organization, farm gate level processing facilities, warehouse units, and value added food products. Next suggestion is promoting organic millets to cater increased demand for the consumers. Next is to explore trade opportunities. Why? Because export of Indian millets has not been up to mark as compared to other cereal grains. Why? Due to poor quality. So for this, farmers need to be educated about quality concerns at all stages of production and harvesting. Next is federating millets farmers, that is farmer producer organizations. Then expanding the coverage of small millets under minimum support price. Why? Because we have already discussed that government declares minimum support price for sorghum, pearl millet, barley and ragi only. Next is promoting contract farming for millets. Now, having discussed facets related to millets production in India, let us look into the contemporary challenges lying ahead for the agriculture sector in India. Now let's discuss major contemporary challenges faced by agricultural sector one by one. The first is, now as you know, rising temperature along with increased occurrences of extreme weather conditions have made climate change a major threat to Indian agriculture, which lead to productivity loss. Apart from hampering the biological growth of the plants, Climate change also results in crop damage by increasing pest and diseases attacks. It has been observed that small and marginal farmers are more prone to these impacts. Second challenge is agricultural waste management. How? As crop residue burnings in northern state increase the air pollution levels. The best example of this is stubble burning near Delhi and NCR region, deteriorating the air quality index of that region. Also, high pollution level in air will further contribute to global warming and create health hazards. Next challenge is fragmented land holding. Now, the average size of land holding in the country has come down to 1.08 hectare in 2015 and 16 from 2.28 hectare in 1970 and 71. And you should know that marginal and small holdings together constitute 86% of total holdings in India. So what will happen? That fragmented land occupancy structures make it almost impossible for farmers to viably invest in heavy infrastructure like drip irrigation, bulk inputs, etc., thus adversely affecting productivity. Next major challenge is storage infrastructure. Now, the current availability of cold storage facility in India is highly skewed. Why? Because 70% of the country's total capacity limited to 4 states. That is UP, West Bengal, Punjab and Gujarat. Whereas states like Maharashtra and Karnataka with large export potential do not have adequate facilities. Next challenge is non-development of food processing industry. Now, as food processing industry is a sunrise industry and the demand for processed food in India is likely to increase steadily with rapid urbanization, rising per capita income and more women joining the force. Despite all these benefits, food processing industry in India is currently at a nascent stage, accounting for less than 10% of the total food produced in the country. Next major challenge is disguised unemployment. How? Because agricultural sector engages 49% of the total labor force in the country and its contribution to overall GVA, that is gross value added, is only 17%. So what it reflects? It reflects the over-dependence of Indian labor force on agriculture, resulting in hidden or disguised unemployment in the sector and thus lower labor productivity. Next challenge is food inflation and volatility in food prices. Now, as agricultural production in India is still heavily dependent on rainfall and its spatial distribution, adverse climatic conditions like drought, flood and unseasonal rains tend to disrupt both aggregate supply and supply chains. What will impart large volatility to food inflation trajectory in India. Next major challenge is post-harvest losses. What is post-harvest losses? Wastage of food products due to inefficient post-harvest practices, which is one of the important factor behind high food inflation in India. And wastage take place at all levels of the food value chain, starting from the level of farmers to the level of transporters, wholesalers and retailers. Everyone is involved. Next challenge is food quality and safety safeguards. Now, Asian and Middle Eastern countries remain the major destinations for Indian agricultural exports, whereas entry into the markets of the US and European Union has remained a challenge. Why? Due to high sanitary and phytosanitary norms, resulting in high refusal or rejection rates for Indian products. And the last and the very important challenge is public investment. Why? Because capital formation holds the key to agricultural growth and development. And it is not about the agriculture. For the rise of any sector, capital formation is the base. And in Indian agriculture, as a percentage of agriculture GVA, it has moderated in the recent past. The share of public sector is much lower than private sector in capital formation in agriculture. So, in crux, this sector has confronted various challenges, mitigation of which requires a holistic policy approach. For instance, Crop productivity in India is much lower than other advanced and emerging market economies due to various factors like fragmented landholding, lower farm mechanization, lower public and private investment in agriculture. Second, the current overproduction of crops like rice, wheat, and sugarcane has led to rapid depletion of groundwater table, soil degradation, and massive air pollution, raising questions about environmental sustainability of current agricultural practices in India. Third, despite surplus production in many of the commodities, food inflation and volatility in prices continue to remain high, causing inconvenience to consumers and low and fluctuating income for farmers. Now, empirical analysis carried out reveals that supply side hindrances like low public investment, inadequate cold storage capacity, and nascent food processing industry are partly responsible for volatility in food prices in India. Now, let's see few suggestions to overcome these challenges faced by our agriculture sector in India. Now, to address these challenges would require a second green revolution, which should be focused on the agriculture, water, and energy nexus, thus making agriculture more climate resistant and environmentally sustainable. Second, use of biotechnology and breeding. This will be important in developing eco-friendly, disease-resistant, climate-resilient, and more nutritious and diversified crop varieties. Second is wider use of digital technology and extension services, which would be helpful in information sharing and generating awareness among the farmers. Next is better post-harvest loss management and a revamp of cooperative movement through formation of farmer producer organization, that is FPOs. Why? Because they can arrest the volatility in food prices and farmers' income and help harness the true potential of Indian agriculture. Now, our next discussion is based on this article which appeared on page number 4 in the Hindu newspaper. Context of this article is that Maratha quota activist Manoj Jarangi Patil finally ended his indefinite hunger strike after Maharashtra CM Eknath Shinde called on him at the protest site in Jalna district and assured him that the government is committed to granting reservation in government jobs and education to the community. Now, syllabus of GS paper 2 clearly expect us to have a clear understanding about different aspects related to reservation. Now, before moving on to the broader topic, that is reservation, first let us understand about other backward classes. Now, OBCs in India are a diverse group encompassing various communities and sub-communities united by their classification as educationally or socially disadvantaged by the government. Now, this article delves into the demands for OBC status by dominant caste group such as Jats, Marathas, and Patidas. It also provides insights into the OBC classification and the historical context surrounding these demands. Now, OBC constitute a vast and heterogeneous group within the Indian social fabric. They include communities with different societal and economic status. Now, OBC consists of land-owning communities in both northern and southern India, as well as economically disadvantaged section of society engaged in subsistence labor. Now, let's see another associated concept, that is dominant caste. Now, within the OBC classification, some castes stand out as dominant due to their historical, social, and economic status. Now, these dominant caste groups often possesses significant land holdings, political influence, and socio-cultural prominence. Now, despite their dominance, they seek OBC status, citing various socio-economic challenges. So, example of dominant OBC in various states of India may include Jats in some northern states, Marathas in Maharashtra, and Patidas in Gujarat, among others. Now, these groups have at times demanded OBC status to assess the benefits of reservation policies, even though they may be relatively better off than other OBC communities. So, the demand for OBC status by the dominant caste group highlight the complex interplay of socio-economic factors, historical context, and affirmative action policies in India. So these demands continue to be a subject of debate and legal scrutiny, with questions surrounding the effectiveness and equity of reservations for different communities. So, in line with the news article, here in this discussion, we are going to cover aspects like what is reservation, then we'll see constitutional provisions regarding reservation, then we'll see recent debates surrounding the reservation, then we'll discuss issues associated with the reservation, and we'll end our discussion with the way forward. Reservation is a form of affirmative action whereby a percentage of seats are reserved in the government services and educational institutions for the socially and educationally backward communities and the scheduled caste and tribes who are inadequately represented in these services and institutions. Now let's see what are the constitutional provisions regarding reservation. First is Article 15 Clause 4, which allows state to make special provisions for the advancement of any socially and educationally backward classes of citizens or for the SCs and STs. This provision was extended to admission in educational institutions by 93rd Amendment Act 2006. But you should remember that this provision excludes minority educational institutions. Next is Article 16 Clause 4, which allows state to make provisions for the reservation of appointments or posts in favor of any backward class of citizens which in the opinion of state is not adequately represented in the services. Next is Article 16(4)(a), which allows state to make provisions for reservation in matter of promotion to SCs and STs employees. Next is Article 46 that allows state shall promote with special care the educational and economic interests of the weaker section of the people, that is SCs and STs. Next is Article 243D. This provides reservation of seats for SCs and STs in every panchayat. Next is 243T, reservation in every municipality. Then Article 330, according to which seats shall be reserved in the Lok Sabha for the SCs and STs. And next is Article 332, which provides reservation of seats for the SCs and STs in legislative assemblies of the state. Now, as you know, reservation in India is a complex and controversial issue. While it was introduced as a measure to address historical and structural inequalities, it has also been criticized for creating new forms of inequality and perpetuating caste-based divisions. So let's see what are the recent debates regarding reservation. First in this is subcategorization of OBC. Now, idea is to create subcategories within the larger group of OBCs for the purpose of reservation. Currently, OBCs are granted 27% reservation in jobs and education under the central government. Now, this has been a legal debate for other reservation categories too. In September last year, a constitution bench of the Supreme Court reopened the debate on subcategorization of SCs and STs for reservation. Next is dominant caste demanding reservation. Marathas, Patels, Jats, Kapos and other are asking for reservation today, preferably through their recognition as other backward classes. This demand reflects the challenges they are facing on the job market. Next debate revolves around reservation to Muslims and Christians. Currently, the constitutional right to reservation in jobs and education as a member of the SC community is extended only to people from Hindu, Sikhs or Buddhist faiths in accordance with the Constitution Scheduled Caste Order 1950. Next is local reservation in private sector. Best example of this is Haryana State Employment of Local Candidates Act 2020 was passed reserving 75% of private sector jobs for people of the state. Now, having seen the debates regarding reservation, let's see what are the issues associated with reservation in India. The first issue is debate over meritocracy. One of the main arguments against reservation is that it goes against the principle of meritocracy, which is the idea that individuals should be rewarded based on their abilities and hard work rather than their social background. So critics argue that reservation policies favor candidates from certain communities or caste regardless of their abilities or qualifications, and therefore undermine the concept of meritocracy. Next issue is its limited impact. How? While reservation has been in place for several decades, it has not been able to fully address the issue of caste-based discrimination and inequality. Many argue that it has only benefited a small section of the population, leaving the majority of Dalits or other marginalized groups outside its purview. Next issue is backlash from dominant caste. Reservation has often been met with resistance from dominant castes who see it as a threat to their own interests and privileges. And this has led to tension and conflicts between different castes and groups, and in some cases, even violence. Another important issue is political manipulation, and this is quite important. Reservation policies have been used by political parties as a tool to gain votes and maintain power, and this has led to creation of new caste-based political alliances and the use of reservation quotas as a bargaining chip in electoral politics. Next issue is inadequate implementation. Despite the existence of reservation policies, many institutions and organizations continue to discriminate against marginalized groups. The implementation of reservation policies has been uneven and often marred by corruption and inefficiency, which has limited their impact. So these are the issues which are associated with reservation in India. Now, improving the reservation system in India requires a multi-pronged approach that addresses its various shortcomings. So here are some ways in which the reservation system in India could be improved. The first in this is to ensure effective implementation. Now, one of the biggest challenges with the reservation system in India is the lack of effective implementation. So, there is a need to ensure that reservation policies are implemented in a transparent and efficient manner and that benefits reach the intended beneficiaries. Next suggestion is to expand the scope of reservation to include other marginalized groups such as economically weaker sections, transgender individuals, people with disabilities who face discrimination and exclusion. Next suggestion is to address the issue of creamy layer. Now, what is creamy layer? It refers to the affluent sections within reserved categories who benefit from reservation policies and may not necessarily require them. So, there is a need to exclude the creamy layer from reservation benefits to ensure that the benefits reach the most disadvantaged sections. Next is to encourage merit-based affirmation action. Now, reservation policies could be supplemented by other measures that promote merit-based affirmation actions. For example, institutions could adopt diversity targets, scholarships, mentorship programs to support underprivileged students. Next is to focus on quality education. Now, improving the quality of education in marginalized community is critical to reduce the dependence on reservation policies. So, there should be investment in quality education infrastructure, teacher training, curriculum development could go a long way in promoting equality and social mobility. Next is to promote social awareness and dialogue. Creating a social awareness and dialogue around the issues of caste and reservation is important to promote greater understanding and acceptance of the need for affirmative action policies. And how this can be done? This can be done through public education, campaigns, media outreach, community engagement programs. So these are few suggestions which can be used to reform reservation system in India. Now, overall reservation in India is a complex issue that needs to be approached with nuance and sensitivity. While it has helped to address some forms of inequality, it has also created new challenges that need to be addressed. Now, our first pre-pointer is based on this news article which appeared on page number 15 in the Hindu newspaper. Context of this news article is that Supreme Court onboarded its case data on the National Judicial Data Grid. Now, what is this? This is a national repository of data relating to cases instituted, pending, and deposited of by the courts across the country. In this regard, Chief Justice of India D.Y. Chandra onboarding of Supreme Court data on NJDG, that is National Judicial Data Grid, under the open data policy is a step on our part to bring transparency and accountability in the judicial domain. Now, as you know, transparency and accountability is an important aspect of governance and quite important theme under GS paper 2. Also, functioning of the executive and the judiciary is another important theme under GS paper 2. So let's see more about National Judicial Data Grid. It is a database of orders, judgments and cases details of 18,735 district and subordinate courts and high courts, created as an online platform under eCourts project. Its key feature is that data is updated in real time and has granular data up to the taluka level. Now let's see who runs the National Judicial Data Grid. The National Judicial Data Grid was built as a part of Phase 2 of the eCourts project, which is a centrally sponsored scheme. And this platform has been developed by National Informatics Center, that is NIC, in close coordination with in-house software development team of the computer cell. Registry of the Supreme Court with an interactive interface and analytics dashboard. Now, let's see benefits of integration of Supreme Court to National Judicial Data Grid, that is NJDG. The first in this is real-time access to case data. Now, NJDG provides real-time data on the filing and disposal of cases in the Supreme Court. Now, this data is readily accessible to the public, making it easier for citizens to track the status of cases and access relevant information. Another benefit is open data policy. Now, decision to include Supreme Court case data on the NJDG is in line with an open data policy. What does it mean? That it will ensure transparency and accessibility of judicial information to the public. Another benefit is identification of bottlenecks. Now, as it will help to identify specific bottlenecks in judicial process. For example, if the number of land disputes in a particular state shoots up, so this will help policy makers look into whether the law need to be strengthened or not. Another benefit is coordination and informed decision making. Now, onboarding the NJDG will enhance coordination within the judiciary and enable informed decision making, as judges and court officials can access up-to-date information about the institution, disposal and pendency of cases, categorized by type, year, stage and quorum. Next is research opportunities. Now, researchers and legal scholars can use this data to analyze trends, study case outcomes and gain insights into the functioning of the Indian judicial system. Last is pendency and case statistics. Now, NJDG works as a monitoring tool to identify, manage and reduce pendency of cases. Take for instance the Supreme Court data. For the year 2023, the total pendency of cases registered in Supreme Court is 64,854. But the cases instituted last month were 5,412, while cases disposed of in the last month were 5,033. So this shows that the pendency in SC, that is Supreme Court, is largely due to legacy cases, since the court is currently disposing of approximately the same number of cases filed on an annual basis. So in crux, with the Supreme Court's participation, the NJDG now includes all the three tiers of the Indian judiciary, completing a significant aspect of the eCourts project, which also aligns with the Indian governance ease of doing business initiative. Now, our next pre-pointer is based on this news article which appeared on page number 16. Context is that in 2020, Government of India came up with Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana to bring about ecologically healthy and economically viable and socially inclusive development of the fisheries sector of India. Now, as you know, this sector is quite important under GS paper 3. So now let's see status of India's fisheries sector as per Economic Survey 2022 and 23. Now, the fishing sector in the country continues to be the among most important and fastest growing agricultural allied sector in this country. The sector provides livelihood to more than 2.8 cr fishers and fish farmers at the primary level and several more along the fisheries value chain. Now, the average growth rate of the fisheries sector has been about 7% since 2016 and 17 and has a share of about 6.7% in total agricultural GVA. About 17% of agricultural exports of our country are fish and fish products. And you should know that India is among top 3 countries in fish and aquaculture production. Also, India has become the one of the biggest shrimp exporter in the world. So now let's discuss important aspects related to Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana. Now, Department of Fisheries under Ministry of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairying is implementing Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana. Now, it is designed to address critical gaps in the fisheries value chain from fish production, productivity, quality to technology, post-harvest infrastructure and marketing. Now, aim is to modernize and strengthen the value chain, enhance traceability and establish a robust fisheries management framework while simultaneously ensuring the socio-economic welfare of fishers and fish farmers. The scheme focuses on the doubling of fishers' income through a variety of interventions, like by generating meaningful employment. It also focuses on enhancing the contribution of the fisheries sector to the agricultural GVA and export. So now let's see benefits of Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana. Now, this scheme provides financial assistance to develop fishing infrastructure. For example, fishing harbors, fish landing centers, fish market, fish seed farms, etc. Another benefit is to provide assistance for marketing and export of fish products because it provides assistance for the development of cold chains, fish processing units, packaging facilities, to promote the export of fish products. For example, aquapreneurs in ELEARN have become successful exporters with the help of biofloc cultivated ships. Now, another benefit is employment generation. It aims to generate employment opportunities, particularly in rural and coastal areas. Further, it also promotes use of modern technology and equipment in fishing and aquaculture. This includes providing support for the adoption of advanced fishing vessels, fish finding technology, and fish processing machinery. Another benefit is diversification in fisheries by promoting activities such as ornamental fish farming, seaweed cultivation, and mariculture. Next is empowerment of women. The scheme emphasizes the participation of women in the fisheries sector, providing them with training and financial support for their active involvement in various activities. For example, women entrepreneurs from Kashmir Valley are efficiently rearing cold water trout using a recirculatory aquaculture system. So these are the benefits of Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana. Now, this scheme has indeed opened a world of opportunity, and its successful implementation will play a pivotal role in shaping the destiny of India's fishery and aquaculture industry for generations to come. Now, this scheme is also important because UPSC has been asking questions based on important aspects related to aquaculture system. For example, this question came in year 2023 based on role of biofilters in recirculating aquaculture system. Now, the answer of this PYQ is option B, that is only 2. Why? Because statement 3rd is incorrect. Because biofilters are used to remove nitrogen and phosphorus from a synthetic fish farm water. So here our answer is option B. Now our last pre-pointer is based on this news article which appeared on page number 17 in the Hindu newspaper. This article is about rubber boat. Now rubber boat, jointly with central government and the Automotive Tire Manufacturers Association, is implementing a project to expand the area under natural rubbers in the northeastern states. Now why this article is important? Because UPSC has already asked question based on T-boat in year 2022. And answer of this PYQ is option D, that is 1 and 4. So now, coming back to the topic, let's discuss more facts about rubber boat. Now, rubber boat is a statutory body constituted by the Government of India under the Rubbers Act 1947 for the overall development of the rubber industry in the country. Now, the Rubber Board functions under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry of the Government of India. Its head office is in Kottayam, Kerala. Now, the composition as per Section 4.3 of the Act is that board shall consist of a chairman, which to be appointed by the central government, then 2 members to represent the state of Tamil Nadu, one of whom shall be a person representing the rubber producing interests, and 8 members to represent the state of Kerala, 6 of whom shall be persons representing the rubber producing interests, and 3 of such being persons representing the small growers. Then 10 members to be nominated by the central government, of whom 2 shall represent the manufacturers and 4 labourers, and 3 to be nominated by the central government, of whom 2 shall be from the Department of Commerce and 1 from the Department of Agriculture and Corporation. Now 3 members of Parliament, of whom 2 shall be elected by the Lok Sabha and 1 by the Council of States, that is Rajya Sabha, and the Executive Director and the Rubber Production Commissioner. So this is all about composition of Rubber Board. Now let's see functions of the board as per the Act. The first is to promote such measures as it thinks fit the development of the rubber industry, and this can be done by undertaking, assisting or encouraging scientific, technological and economic research, training students, supply of technical advice to rubber growers, then improving the marketing of rubber, then collection of statistics from owners of states, dealers and manufacturers, then securing better working conditions. Then also by carrying out any other duties which may be vested with the board as per the rules made under this Act. Also, it shall be the duty of the board to advise the central government on all matters relating to the development of the rubber industry, including the import and export. To advise central government with regard to the participation in any international conference or scheme relating to rubber, or to submit to the central government or any other authorities as may be prescribed half-yearly reports on its activity, and to prepare and furnish such reports relating to the rubber industry as may be required by central government from time to time. So that's all for today. Stay tuned for more such updates.